You're driving home. It's a quiet, routine trip. You reach for the strap, pull it across your chest, and click it into place. You're doing the responsible thing. Then a car runs a red light. Everything happens in milliseconds. The belt locks, you're held in your seat, and you walk away. That is the outcome we've been taught to expect every time we buckle up. But under specific conditions, that same strap becomes a lethal threat. A seatbelt can function exactly as designed, with zero defects or malfunctions, and still be the direct cause of a fatal injury. To understand why, we have to look past the simple fabric strap and examine the violent physics of what actually happens to a human body during a high-speed impact. Before safety became a priority, car interiors were essentially rigid metal boxes. Take a look at these steel dashboards and unpadded steering columns. There were no airbags and no interior cushions to absorb energy. This lack of protection led to what doctors called the second collision. When a car hits an object, the vehicle stops, but the unanchored human body continues traveling at the original speed until it strikes the interior of the car. In the 1950s, these internal impacts killed over 30,000 Americans every single year. At highway speeds, the kinetic energy involved was simply too much for the human frame to withstand. The seatbelt was originally invented to solve that specific problem by anchoring the occupant strictly to the vehicle frame. But by solving this second collision, engineers inadvertently created a new physical paradox. In a crash at just 30 miles per hour, your body exerts roughly 1 ton of forward-moving force against your restraints. Imagine catching a water balloon. If you hold your arms stiff, the balloon hits a rigid wall and explodes. But if you cup your hands and let them give slightly as you catch it, you extend the time of the impact and the balloon stays intact. A completely rigid seatbelt acts like those stiff arms. It concentrates that force directly onto your chest, leading to a medical pattern called seatbelt syndrome. It results in crushed ribs, lacerated organs, and internal bruising, all caused by a belt that didn't move. The alternative, a loose belt, creates a different nightmare called submarining. Your body slides forward under the strap, allowing the lap belt to ride up and crush your soft abdominal organs, which have no bone structure to protect them. Designers were stuck. A belt tight enough to hold you safely in the seat was also rigid enough to break your ribs and damage your heart. To bypass this physics trap, modern cars use a dual mechanism system hidden inside the frame. It relies on 2 synchronized devices, the pretensioner and the load limiter. At the moment of impact, the pretensioner fires a tiny explosive charge that instantly yanks the belt tight. This pins you into the seat and eliminates the risk of submarining. Milliseconds later, the load limiter takes over. It works like a fishing reel with a brake, intentionally letting a small amount of the belt spool back out. This small release gives your body more time to slow down, reducing the peak force hitting your chest. This microsecond sequence allows the machine to catch your body like a cupped hand, proving the modern seatbelt is a dynamic piece of machinery. In the 1960s, the engineering challenge became an economic one. New safety laws and massive injury lawsuits meant automakers needed a universal solution that was effective and legally sound. Volvo had already developed the 3-point belt in 1959. In an unprecedented move, they gave the patent away for free to ensure every manufacturer could adopt the technology immediately. However, the precise calibration of these systems was determined by legal standards. The timing of the pretensioner and the resistance of the load limiter were set based on injury thresholds that could be defended in a courtroom. Those legal standards were built on data from crash test dummies. For decades, these dummies were almost exclusively modeled after the height and weight of an average adult male. This meant the mechanical timing of the seatbelt was optimized for a very specific biological frame, leaving a dangerous gap for everyone else. Because the physics were calibrated for that male average, women and smaller-framed individuals are injured by correctly functioning seatbelts at significantly higher rates. The mechanics of the belt simply aren't tuned for their bodies. Despite these flaws, the seatbelt remains the most effective life-saving device in automotive history. It saves over 1 million lives every decade, and you should always wear yours. Every time you buckle up, you are engaging with a legacy of survival compromises. It is a tool designed by imperfect humans for an average body that many of us don't actually have. If this look behind the dashboard surprised you, hit like and subscribe. Next week, we're looking at why your fuel gauge is designed to lie to you on purpose. See you there.